Sparta, around 499 BC. A visitor from across the sea is ushered before the king, and under his arm he carries something no Spartan has ever seen. He sets it down, a sheet of bronze, and engraved into the metal, the entire world. Every sea, every river, every nation from the Greek coast to the palaces of Persia, the whole earth resting on a table. The visitor wanted to start a war. See, he said, all the riches of Asia right here, small enough to hold. It didn't work. The king threw him out by sunset. But look at the object left glinting on that table, a picture of the whole world, small enough to carry. The historian Herodotus wrote it down because it was astonishing. And it existed only because, 2 generations earlier, down that same coast, one man had done something no human had ever done. He drew the first one. Here's the question you didn't know you had. How do you draw a map of the whole world when nobody has ever seen the whole world? No aircraft, no satellite. Most people in 550 BC lived and died within a day's walk of where they were born. The whole earth was a thing no human eye had ever looked at. The man who tried was Anaximander of Miletus, and drawing the world was only his second boldest act. So here's the answer up front, and everything else will earn it. Anaximander's one move was this: where the eye stops, let reason keep walking. He trusted that the unseen world runs on the same rules as the seen, so you can reason your way to true things no one has ever looked at. A world you can map, an earth that needs nothing to hold it up. Hold that idea, we'll come back to it. This is the story of the man who drew the world and then let go of it. Start with the man's mind because it explains everything he did. His city was Miletus, the richest port in the Greek world, 4 harbors, ships from 3 seas, where Egyptian geometry and Babylonian star charts were unloaded along with the timber and wool. And in that city, a young Anaximander walked the harbor wall beside old Thales, the first philosopher, and did the unthinkable. The teacher said, "Everything is made of water." The student said, "I don't think that's right." His objection was sharp. If everything is water, where does fire come from? Fire is water's enemy. Water kills it on contact. The source of everything, he reasoned, can't be any one thing you can point to. So he proposed something stranger. Beneath water, fire, earth, and air lies a deeper source with no boundaries and no shape. He called it the apeiron, the boundless. Everything separates out of it and returns to it. Feel how modern that is. 26 centuries later, physicists hunting the field beneath the particles are still playing his game. Then he did something almost as radical. He wrote it down in plain prose. In his world, serious words came as poetry, gods and heroes, in verse, sung from memory. Anaximander wrote the first prose book in Greek. Plain sentences about how nature works. No muses, no heroes. Arguably, the man invented non-fiction. One sentence of it survives, the oldest sentence of Western philosophy we have, and even there he says the universe runs on the ordering of time. A law, not a mood. Remember that habit of mind, because it's the key to everything next. So, how do you draw a world you cannot see? You start with what Miletus had more of than any city alive: sailors. Milesians had planted colonies from the Black Sea to Egypt. Later writers said 90 of them. Every returning captain carried a piece of the world in his head. This coast bends south. That river has 3 mouths. Beyond those cliffs, nothing but sea. Anaximander collected those fragments the way his teacher collected Babylonian eclipse records. One man's memory is a story. 100 men's memories, laid edge to edge, start to become a shape. And where the reports ran out, at edges no ship had returned from, he did the Milesian thing. He let reason fill in what sight could not. The lands formed a rough circle, Europe north, Asia east, Africa south, gathered around the Middle Sea, and around everything one great ring of ocean. Then he drew it. The ancient geographers are unanimous. Anaximander of Miletus was the first human being ever to dare to draw the inhabited world. Every map that has existed since, from imperial charts to the glowing one in your pocket, descends from a circle scratched by one man in a Greek port town. Feel what that object really is. To draw the world, you must picture it from above. Hang your mind's eye somewhere no human had ever stood. The first photograph of the whole Earth was taken from space in the 1960s. Anaximander took the first idea of it 25 centuries earlier, standing on a dock. That's the pattern of this whole episode. Seeing, in the mind, what the eye can't reach. But a map creates a problem, and any child spots it within a minute. What's at the edge? What's underneath? What is the whole thing standing on? Every people on Earth had an answer, and every answer was a thing. The Earth rides on water, said Thales. On the shoulders of a giant, said the poets, on great pillars. Elsewhere, on the back of a vast turtle swimming through the dark. Something has to hold the world up. On this, every culture in history agreed. Anaximander asked the question that kills every one of those answers. Fine, the Earth rests on water. What does the water rest on? The turtle stands on what? Another turtle? It never ends. Every support needs a support. The whole way of thinking was a ladder standing on nothing. So he made the leap, and this may be the single boldest thought a human being had ever had. Nothing holds the Earth up. Nothing. It hangs at the center of everything, unsupported, and it stays there because it's the same distance from everything, with no reason to fall one way rather than another, not resting on something, balanced on reason. 25 centuries later, the philosopher Karl Popper called this one of the boldest, most revolutionary, and most portentous ideas in the whole history of human thinking. Because it's the first time on record that a human trusted an argument over every instinct in his body. Things fall. Everyone knows things fall. Anaximander reasoned his way to a place where down doesn't even exist, 2,000 years before Newton. Even Aristotle, who thought the idea was wrong, couldn't help recording it and calling the reasoning ingenious. And that habit, disagree but write it down, is why we know any of this at all. Now, was his Earth the right shape? Not even close. He pictured it as a short stone cylinder, like a drum cut from a temple column, 3 times wider than tall, with all of us on the flat top. Beautifully, completely wrong. But by now you know that was never the point. Look at what the idea contained. Idea 1. The sky became a machine. Above his floating drum, Anaximander saw great invisible wheels of fire circling the Earth, each with a hole the fire shines through. The sun is a hole. The moon is a hole. An eclipse? A hole temporarily blocked. Wrong, and yet it's the first mechanical model of the heavens in history. No chariots, no gods, just moving parts you could argue about. Idea 2. Space got depth. If the lights of heaven are wheels at different distances, then the sky isn't a painted dome. It's a place. Things can be behind other things. Space, as somewhere you could travel into, is quietly born on the flat top of that drum. Idea 3. He taught there are countless worlds, arising out of the boundless and perishing back into it, world after world without end. Scholars still argue what exactly he meant, but the simplest reading is staggering. The first man to draw our world may also have been the first to suspect it isn't the only one. His strangest idea came from pointing that same reason at us. Where did living things come from? He said the first life arose from moisture. the warm, wet slime of the young earth, cooked by the sun. And humans? Here's your last wait, really. The first humans, he reasoned, could not have appeared as babies. Human infants are helpless for years. They'd simply have died. So the first of us must have grown inside other creatures, fish or fish-like animals, emerging only when we could survive. A Greek in 550 BC, reasoning his way toward humanity coming from the sea, 24 centuries before Darwin. The details are all wrong. The shape of the thought is exactly right. Look at the evidence, helpless infants, and reason backward to a past where humans didn't yet exist. No myth had ever dared that. Later writers even claimed he told people not to eat fish out of respect for the ancestors. Probably a joke his neighbors told, but it shows how his city saw him, the man whose ideas made even dinner complicated. Anaximander died around 546 BC as the Persian shadow fell across the Greek coast. But remember the rule of the school that raised him. The student corrects the teacher. Within a generation, another Milesian, Hecataeus, took Anaximander's circle and redrew it. More coasts, more rivers, fewer guesses. And here's the crucial part. The map improved, because no one worshipped it. That's the difference between a scientific idea and a sacred one. A scientific idea is built to be replaced. From that circle, the chain runs unbroken. Eratosthenes measured the Earth's size with nothing but shadows. Ptolemy laid a grid of coordinates over the circle. Sailors trusted the map past the edge of the known, and the blank spaces filled in one voyage at a time, until the map completed itself, seen from above, exactly where Anaximander's imagination had been hovering all along. And here's the part that belongs to you. Next time your phone's blue dot finds you, pinch the screen and zoom out. Town, country, continent, the whole round Earth. In 3 seconds you do what no human could do for the first 100,000 years of our existence. You see the world. That view was invented by a man on a dock, filling in the far side of the horizon with pure reason. So let's close the loop. The question was, how do you draw the whole world when nobody has ever seen it? The answer was a man, Anaximander of Miletus, the student who told the first philosopher he was wrong, and was allowed to. He gathered the memories of 1,000 sailors, and where their sight ended, his reason kept going. Around the ring of ocean, up into the wheels of the sky, back into the warm mud that made us, and underneath the earth itself, where he found nothing, and saw that nothing was enough. Nearly everything he claimed was wrong, and it cost him nothing, because his real invention wasn't an answer. It was a direction, past the edge of sight. Trust that the unseen world runs on the same rules as the seen, and reason will carry you where no eye can go. That's the takeaway to walk away with. Every map ever drawn, every model of the universe ever built, is that same act of trust. We stand on a rock that hangs on nothing, in a universe with no floor at all. An idea that took our species 100,000 years, and one stubborn Milesian to think for the first time. Now you know his name. One last thing. On Anaximander's map, his homeland, the highlands of Anatolia, was a plain sweep of bronze. Even he never guessed what lay beneath it. An entire hidden city carved by human hands, plunging 18 stories underground, with room for 20,000 people. It stayed secret for centuries, until a man knocking down a wall in his basement found a room that shouldn't exist, and then another. That's our next story.